So let me just start this video off by saying I have been, and always will be, totally willing, able, and ready to take a polygraph test. However you want to do it, listen, if somebody wants to make the effort to arrange it and hook me up to a polygraph, I am ready to put my money where my mouth is, because this stuff happened. But it's 3:07 a.m. and I didn't plan that. It just so happened I was finally able to find the death certificate that I knew I had taken a photo of, but bear with me because this was in 2012 when this all started. So I'm gonna tell you the story about Claire, who is a little girl, spirit, who really existed, and I have proof of her existence. And she's been haunting me since 2012. I don't really want to call it a haunting because, like, I don't know, y'all like made fun of me for it and were like, but you're cool with it. I am cool with it. I really don't mind her company. I have just written out some bullet points. I'm gonna have to do this video. Did you hear that? To do this video. Oh, Jesus, it's always fucking something. It's always fucking something, man. I'm gonna have to do this video in 2 parts. There is no way I could have fit it all into 1 part, just because I got from 2012 to 2014. And that's all I could get. And it's 2 pages worth of bullet points. So I don't even know how long this is gonna take to record. So yeah, I guess we'll just get started. The first thing that I want to show you is this sketch from 2015. I'll put that on the screen somewhere. I did tell you all on TikTok in the comments that I would share the sketch of Claire that I did. Okay, so let's get down to it, yeah? Let's get freaking down to it. So let me lay out for you the types of people that there are, okay? At one end, we have non-believers. People who under no circumstances believe in anything paranormal. That's fine. Totally understandable. Somewhere in the middle, we have believers. So people who have believed in it, maybe have experienced something but can explain it away, or people, this is my favorite, people that believe that other people have had experiences. So you might believe me but haven't had experiences of your own, so it's fine. It's perfectly healthy to question it. I would be worried if you weren't questioning me. The far side of the scale are the people who know, the knowers, okay? And these type of people, like myself, have seen things with their eyes that just defy the laws of physics, and there is no earthly explanation for the things that these people have seen. Therefore, they know to their truest self that the paranormal or something beyond or spirits, whatever you want to call it, exists. So that's the scale, okay? We have the non-believers, the believers, and then the knowers, the people who know that this exists. And I just want to ask a question, okay? Especially to the people who don't believe, and it's perfectly reasonable for you not to believe in any of this stuff. Makes total sense. Believe me, I've been there. But what would you do, non-believer, if you're sitting in a room and you see a 200-pound piece of furniture move 8 feet across your room by itself? So what would you do? I mean, how do you explain that? If you see something like that with your eyes and there are witnesses around, I mean, you see what I'm saying? You just have to, I mean, it goes beyond believing, doesn't it? It goes on to, no, I know something's there because I have seen things beyond the earthly realm happen that shouldn't be happening. Man, it screws you up in your head. But anyways, let me know in the comments, people who don't believe in the paranormal, I mean, really, what would you do? It's tricky because scientists can't even explain the human consciousness. You know, like what makes all of us ourselves. The soul isn't a tangible thing. So I think it's tricky for people to believe and to not kind of rationalize it. I am not a crazy person. Well, but I am educated. I have 3 college degrees. One of them is in science. So I strongly believe in science. I have discounted and written off so many things that I've experienced because it could have been something I saw out of my peripheral vision. It could have been any number of things. If we're gonna talk about science, right? And this is why I love people who say that they're like rational and scientific. So if we're talking about science in regards to the paranormal, Newton's law says that energy can't be created nor destroyed, right? Every action has an equal reaction. So we could all agree on that. We can all agree that that's fact. We can also all agree that humans are electricity. If somebody uses a defibrillator, the paddles, zzz, clear, it's electricity. We are run on electricity. So when we die, where does it go? I mean, surely that energy isn't destroyed because Newton's law says that it can't be destroyed or created. So it's got to go somewhere. The energy goes somewhere, okay? We can all agree on that. Whether it goes back into the universe, whether it goes to a different dimensional plane, maybe, where, you know, the spirit realm is, we're not going to get into that. But those were just the couple things that I wanted to point out just before we get into this story, okay? Because I know it's really difficult. I've never talked about this stuff before on camera. So I don't know. I feel like it's just as difficult as it is for me to tell the story as it is for people to watch it and believe it. Which, you know, believe it or not, I can't help it. Hook me up to a freaking lie detector test. I don't know, dude. So the Claire story, I'm going to go through Claire's story in chronological order. Like I said, it's going to be a 2-part video, but I'm going to give you real meaty stuff this time, and I'm going to give you real meaty stuff next time, okay? It's like 3:15 in the morning now, and I can't do it all tonight. So, Hurricane Sandy hit New Jersey in 2012. It unfortunately wrecked my entire apartment, and I needed to find a new domicile really quickly. So I called maybe 100 places within 2 days, just trying to find somewhere that would rent on such short notice. I mean, I lost everything and I had nowhere to go. And finally there was one home that was available for rent. The rent was really cheap. It was a 2-story, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom with a basement home. which I could afford by myself, so it was really affordable. And yeah, I moved in really quickly without asking any questions, because desperate times. Okay, so at the time that I moved into this apartment, I did have a boyfriend. He was working in Manhattan most of the time, sometimes would stay with me, and it is important, I think, to point out that he was physically and mentally abusive towards me, and the only reason that I'm pointing it out is because that energy creates a means for paranormal stuff to happen. And I'm not going to get into that. I mean, if you all want to get into the theory of all of this, I'm happy to do that, but that's not what this video is about. This is about doing right by Claire and telling her story. So I'm in the home alone most of the time. So God, and I remember this so vividly. The first thing that ever happened, it was like within the first week that I moved in. I was downstairs, I remember it. I was playing The Legend of Zelda by myself, and I had to pause the game because I was hearing above my head, clear as day, footsteps pacing back and forth, back and forth. And I'm like, what the hell? So I'm scared at that. I mean, I hadn't experienced anything like this yet in 2012. I mean, I've experienced stuff my whole life, but never anything living in a house on my own. So I'm shook. So I call my boyfriend, and this motherfucker is able to hear the footsteps on the phone with me, and he has the audacity to tell me that it's the house settling. Okay, sure, whatever. So that was the first thing that happened, whatever. Obviously, he wrote it off, I wrote it off. There was really nothing else to do with. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I have really bad ADHD, so this is why I had to write all of this out, or else it would never happen. I did this for you. I did this for you. So I had a dog and a cat at the time, Toby, who I still have. He's 11. Toby the dog, and I had a cat named Brutus. And they just started acting so weird. And it's not any concrete evidence, but it will come full circle later on. My bedroom, I'm gonna draw a little sketch of the layout of my bedroom, like ground plan style, and I'll put it on the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. And it had a closet, and it had like this big bay window that took up like a big portion of the wall, and that's where my bed was underneath. Okay. So my my animals, so I have the bed, right? And then there's the window that's behind the bed, and it's this big beautiful window. And you would expect the animals to like look out the window, but these bitches were like looking on my bed underneath the window. Oh, sorry. I have Crohn's disease, so like I can't stop burping. Yeah, they were looking underneath the window, and it was like at weird times of the day, at all hours of the night. Toby, the dog, he wouldn't like whine or like these two bitches were just looking in the same spot at nothing. Just a spot on the wall in between the bed and the window. And this was all the time, and I couldn't shake them. I couldn't get their gaze off of it. I would offer treats. They won't take the treats. Just a little weird. And obviously it escalates from here, okay? I'm just trying to tell you the full story. So, oh Jesus, God. So then the thing happened. The big thing happened. Like, I'm sorry. I like went back in my memory bank and was kind of reliving it. Oh, it was not a good time for me. Not a good time for me. So I had just gone food shopping, and I was working an afternoon shift at my job at a medical office, and I had to leave for work in like half an hour, so I just had to like unload my groceries and like get dressed and go. So I'm bringing my groceries inside, and I'm like stacking them on the table and stacking them on the chair in my kitchen. And in order to get to my kitchen, which I'm gonna draw it out for you. So we have the front door, and then there was the living room, and then there was the kitchen. And you had to walk through the living room to get to the kitchen, and the kitchen was about 8 feet wide and like 10 feet long. So yeah, I had like actually it wasn't little, it was like a big solid oak dining table that I had gotten from like an estate, like old people were like giving it away. So it was like this solid wood table, really heavy, and then 3 solid oak chairs, and they were tall. Table was tall, the chairs were tall. These chairs were like 10-15 pounds each. I mean, if you've ever experienced solid oak wood, they're heavy. So I'm loading groceries, I'm bringing it in the front door, through the living room. Through the living room. Through the living room. Through the living room. This always happens. I really hope the camera is like picking up this stuff, picking up this stuff that I'm hearing. Okay, we're just gonna keep going. Hi, Claire. But so I was taking my groceries through the front door, through the living room, through the kitchen, and then putting it on the table. And then when I ran out of room on the table, I stacked the groceries on the chairs. So I walked in to the kitchen. I put some groceries down, and I had to make like one more trip back to the car. So I turned around and I start making my way across the kitchen towards the front door. And you know when you're like, I hear this noise behind me, which I didn't think anything about at first. It was the sound of a chair kind of scooting against the floor, like, which, like, I have a dog and a cat. It's not a weird noise for me to hear, so I didn't turn around. I didn't look. So then I get a couple steps across my kitchen, like a good solid couple feet, maybe like 3 feet, 4 feet, so like halfway across my kitchen, and I'm still hearing this scooting sound, but it's right behind me. It's like I can hear it right behind my body, and it's just this steady scooting sound. And if one of my animals had knocked a chair, you know, it's a quick little and then that's it. So now my ears are perked up, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I whipped around quick as hell because now I'm spooked, and I'm like, what am I hearing? It's like you hear something so out of the ordinary that you're not used to hearing, and your body immediately goes into like goosebumps, like what is going on? Because you're not used to experiencing that kind of sound for that prolonged period of time, and then for the sound to stay behind my head, it was just a weird sensation. So I whipped around, and what I saw next was one of the kitchen chairs with groceries on top of it was scooting steadily behind me by itself. And I take one or two steps back, kind of out of shock. This is all happening within like a split second. I'm just trying to play by play for you. So I whip around and the chair is moving towards me. And so now I haul ass backwards. So I'm still watching this chair. I make it to the living room like 5 feet behind me. But I didn't turn my back on this chair. I pretty much ran backwards while watching this chair into my living room, and the chair continued to scoot across my kitchen for another 4 or 5 feet until it met the carpet of the living room and could not scoot any longer. So I watched a 10 to 15 pound piece of furniture with groceries on top of it move 8 feet across my kitchen on its own. And so you're probably wondering, where were my animals? Because I wondered the same thing in that moment. And I looked to one corner of the kitchen, and there's my dog, with his ears back and his tail tucked, looks terrified. I look to the other side of the kitchen, and there's the cat, like this, with its hair standing on its back. So I didn't know what else to do besides run out my front door. And then I cried hysterically in the parking lot, 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 like a maniac. So I called my boyfriend, and he said I was crazy, and I was hysterically crying. I was distraught over this. Just sobbed for about 30 minutes in the parking lot. I was finally able to go back inside. And I was like, just check the weight of the chair. Like, maybe it's lighter than you're thinking. Just heard like a dinging sound out there. Maybe it's lighter than. So I go inside, and the chair is exactly where it was. I didn't hallucinate that. It was still right at the edge of the tile where it met the carpet, just like I saw. And my father was like, just pick up the chair and see if it weighs as much as you think it does. So I went over. Claude, what are you doing? Claude, what are you doing? I went over and I picked up the chair, and it was so heavy. I immediately dropped it and started sobbing again. Because you know what? It sounds silly now that, like, just an adult, like, sobbing over this stuff. But the laws of physics had just been broken in front of my eyes. So my world was turned upside down. Everything that I had believed my entire life was just out the window. So then I had to call my job and say, I'm going to be really late because something has happened and I can't explain it. And I showed up to work, I think 2 or 3 hours late. And that was that. So after the furniture moved 8 feet across my kitchen, things started escalating. Not terribly. My hair started to get tugged on, not pulled. Like, it wasn't like my hair was getting like, it's like just as if somebody was taking the ends of it and just little tugs. Nothing crazy, but it was enough to start freaking me out, you know? And my clothes were being tugged at, which is just the weirdest sense. I mean, do it right now. Take a tug at your clothes and imagine feeling that, but nobody's there. It's just a weird sensation. But then the things like that you can't see, you start questioning your sanity. So now that's what I'm doing at this point, is saying, am I out of my mind? Like, I really thought there was something wrong with my brain. Because then things started disappearing and then reappearing. I don't even know how to explain this. So it was as if, so I had an iPod because it was 2012. This happens so many times I can't even count. Let's say I put my iPod down right here on my dresser because I'm done with it. And then I turn. Now my iPod is over there on the other dresser. And then I turn back and it's not here anymore. Now it's across the room. But it just physically left my hand. So as you can imagine, I'm saying, did I just hallucinate? Like, I'm thinking that I lost time somehow. I'm thinking that I did put it on the other dresser, but somehow I blacked out and like made it over here and I thought that I was at this dresser. You know what I mean? Like, it was really mentally distressing for me because that would happen so often. I mean, that was the first time that it happened, but I can't even count how many times it happened after that. And then my stuff would start disappearing and then reappearing in really weird places. Just as an example, if I lost the iPod, I'd be looking for it everywhere. I would get really frustrated. And then suddenly it is in the middle of the floor in my living room. That happened with my car keys all the time. And there was a hook for the car keys. And this might just sound like memory loss or whatever, like, oh, you forgot where you put your car keys. Like, that's one thing. I can admit that I lose my car keys sometimes. But to search my entire house for my car keys just for them to appear in the middle of my living room floor, which is otherwise empty. I know what you're thinking because that's what I was thinking when it was going on. I'm like, I thought I was going insane. So yeah, that was all really frustrating for me. And then it started escalating to physical stuff that I had witnesses for. So now when this stuff starts happening, I know I'm not crazy because people are there to experience this with me. So this first one, I have one witness. It was my boyfriend. He was there at the time. And I was in kind of like the vanity area. And my boyfriend comes like barging in to the bedroom, and he was like, you left the sink running and it's flooding. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I didn't leave anything running. I wouldn't leave a sink running. So we go into the bathroom, and it had 2 sinks, because it was like one of those big mirrors, 2 sinks. Both sinks had the faucets turned all the way up, and the stoppers were pulled, they were plugged, and the water was overflowing. So now we're both like, oh shit, this could be going downstairs. So we go downstairs to the first floor. Water's coming through the ceiling. But wait, there's a bathroom on the first floor, and we hear the water running. And yup, you guessed it. Hi friends. So my camera died. I didn't get to finish that story. I'm going to finish everything off in part 2. Frankly, because I really want to get this video out, and I promised people I would get it out, and my camera died at a really unfortunate time, but we're gonna get this out anyways and finish everything in part 2, so please tune in for part 2.